You've come up with a concept, formed a team, and are ready to get to work. Congratulations! However, before you jump into coding or designing your game, you might want to think about designing a paper prototype or two for your core mechanics. So what is a paper prototype? A paper prototype is a cheap and fast alternative to building the entire code base for a game before finding out that your main mechanic just isn't fun. So a paper prototype is really a toy. They're used to test a mechanic or layout on a small scale before building up your entire game. This provides a way to solve and isolate a certain variable in a game design to balance it, even if the game as a whole isn't playable yet. It is the ultimate idealization of a game jam, in my opinion. It's a safe space to try new things and to fail rapidly without needing to scrap days of production. So what does one look like? Well, that really depends. For this video, we'll be discussing paper prototypes that lead into tabletop games, but many of the same principles are used for digital projects and their paper prototypes. So one of the early things you can do is write a flowchart. Flowcharts let you map out emotions and actions that players will be feeling and doing at certain points in the game. So one thing you can do is figure out what a single turn looks like, for instance. What are some outcomes of taking an action? What response should an action elicit from the player or their opponent? What emotion should they be feeling when they do so? Another thing that is very common in tabletop game design are index card prototypes. They're cheap and easy to make because index cards are basically just that. They're index cards with game ideas and card ideas written on them. Everyone uses them at some point, it seems, in tabletop design. You can use your pen to write major mechanics, then pencil to fill in numbers that may change. This allows for rebalancing without needing to rewrite the whole card. Another tool that's used often is wireframes, so you can draw what the table will look like, which is good for determining whether the game is too big to play on a given space. You can place each player's area around any shared boards, decks, etc., and see how that looks on a given table space. You can draw a rough card outline for your artists or your graphic designers to understand what's important in the game. Determine what information is the most important and where it will be placed for usability. This determines a lot of your game's feel, length, and even sticking points. For example, your iconography is very important for making a game language independent, so think about how you'd go about including that in your wireframe. So what's next after you build your paper prototype? Obviously, playtest. Determine what the ideal outcome of your prototype should be. What should you feel? What should you gain? How long should it take to use? You can write up your rules for using a prototype and give them to a teammate to follow to the letter while they playtest. Offer answers to questions and note any frustrating or slow points during the test. Try not to guide the tester on what moves to make, though. You will not be in the room when the average player plays your game later on. So, to practice paper prototyping, let's take a look at some already established games. Think about a turn of your favorite board game and write out all of the actions you'll be taking in an average turn. What choices will you make? What components do those choices interact with? Will any of them cause you to win or to lose? Write out a flowchart of a turn in this game and then spend some time making adjustments. Modify the flowchart so the game is harder, so it's easier, so it's cooperative instead of competitive maybe. The sky's the limit. This is how you get started creating your own unique game. So thank you for watching, and I hope you have fun trying new things in your paper prototypes. My name is Michael Epstein from Copper Frog Games, and I hope you keep jamming.